All right, yeah, you're good.
The glasses keep steaming up.
The beauty.
Calling the meeting to order this September 23rd, 2025. We always begin our council meetings with our acknowledgement. The municipality of Tweed recognizes that our work takes place on traditional Indigenous territories, including the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We recognize and respect the history, language, and cultures of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and all Indigenous peoples. This presence continues to enrich our communities. Miigwech. Everyone, please join us in O Canada. Oh. Thank you, everyone. Could I have a move and a second for the approval of our regular agenda, please? Thank you, Councilor Valiquette. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Marsh. Any questions on said agenda? Seeing none, be it resolved that the agenda for the September 23rd, 2025 regular council meeting be approved as presented. All in favor? Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the September 9th, 2025 regular council meeting, please? Mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councilor Valiquette. Thank you, Councilor Fleeler. Any questions on said minutes? Seeing none, be it resolved that the minutes of the September 9th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. Move on to my mayor's remarks. Congratulations to Cindy Chow and her team for planning and coordinating the best taste of Tweed yet. Many thanks as well to all the chefs and local farmers who made it a taste of Tweed to remember. A beautiful day in a beautiful setting with delicious food. I love it when our community comes together. Congratulations also to Ellen Williams and her companions on the installation of Municipality's Peace Pole. Ellen is a mystical visionary who lives and breathes love, compassion, kindness, and peace. I will speak more about the Peace Pole later in my remarks. On September 10th, I attended the Hastings County Community and Human Services Committee. That afternoon, I met with Tweed and Company Artistic Director Tim Porter and Chair Vicky McCullough. That evening, I attended a tribute to our veterans and the unveiling of new banners in their honor. I had the privilege of addressing those in attendance on the significance of the event. This annual ceremony, hosted in the Center Hastings Old Army, added 18 new Tweed banners to the 10 we had from last year. The banners are now displayed in Memorial Park and along Victoria Street. Thank you to Pat Thomas, Jennifer Hodge, and Brock Kirby for your commitment to ensuring our veterans remain forever in our hearts and minds. Again this year, Brock prepared a commemorative video, which will air at our final council meeting after Remembrance Day before Remembrance Day, on October 28th. My thanks as well to Deputy Mayor DeMarsh and Councilor Valiquette for joining me. On September 11th, CIO Diskey and I tuned into the IESO Electricity Planning webinar. On the 12th, Deputy Mayor DeMarsh, Councilor Valiquette, CIO Diskey, and I joined MP Shelby Cramp-Nyman and Hastings County representatives for the official grand opening of Moe's Diner. Later that day, Councilor Valiquette, CIO Diskey, and I joined MP Cramp-Nyman at Moe Ira Place for Ontario Long-Term Care Day. It was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate Moira Place on their 16th anniversary, to acknowledge their importance to our community and their residents, to recognize their long-standing role as an outstanding corporate citizen, and to honor select residents who receive certificates for making a difference in the lives of others. On September 14th, Deputy Mayor DeMarsh, Councillors Fleeler, Valiquette, and I attended Taste of Tweed, another resounding success. Councillor Fleeler served as a judge for the public cook-off event. After speaking with one of the contestants, volunteer firefighter Luke Murphy, who admitted he had trouble even boiling water, I was entirely sure Councillor Fleeler would make it here today. On the 15th, I attended the Hastings County Community and Human Services presentation and information session in Bancroft on helping the homeless. More than 50 people attended, and we heard heart-wrenching stories shared under the umbrella of dignity and respect. I'm grateful for Director Osmond and her team for the difficult but vital work they do. On the 16th, I chaired the Hastings Planning and Development Committee meeting, followed by the Finance, Property, and Personnel meeting. The morning was we also held a special closed session of Hastings County Council. Later that day, I traveled to Ottawa with Councillor Valiquette for the Ontario East Municipal Conference, which ran from the 17th to the 19th. Attendance was slightly lower this year, but the sessions were just as impactful. It was encouraging to meet with those promoting the new high-speed rail, who I've invited as a delegation to our October 14th council meeting. We also met with our new AMAFA representative, Laurie Cowett, who will attend our first November meeting. It is reassuring to hear that other municipalities value our advocacy on behalf of small rural Ontario. While at the conference, Councillor Valiquette and I tuned in to the Quinte Conservation hearing regarding the Rajat River Street plan to build a home. On September 20th, I emceed the Peace Pole installation ceremony. Over 50 people attended. Ellen Williams and her cohort did a wonderful job. In addition to my remarks, there were speeches from Ellen Williams, chair of the Peace Pole Committee, Warden Mullen, MV Cramp Nyman, whose remarks I read on her behalf, Jack White, president of the Tweeden Area Historical Society, and Chris Houston, founder and executive director of the Canadian Peace Museum and the Bancroft Peace Pole. Our Paul Shire, local and world-renowned artist, the sculptor of our Wolf Garden installation at Memorial Park, unveiled a spectacular peace dove that will sit atop the peace pole. Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeMarsh and Councillor Valiquette, for joining me that day. On the 21st, I attended the COPE AGM in Centre Hastings. On the 22nd, today, I attended the Food for All Committee meeting hosted by the Tweed Food Bank. The numbers are shocking and the need is growing. Many in our community are living on the edge, and food insecurity is a major concern. These numbers are not abating, they are rising. Approximately half of those served are seniors, with the remainder largely families. Visits are restricted to once per month, not because there isn't a greater need, but because there simply is not enough food. And as I've noted in the past, food insecurity at both of our elementary schools runs at 25%. Our food bank is in desperate need of assistance, and not just food. Basic hygiene products are also urgently required. Items many of us take for granted: deodorant, shampoo, toothpaste, toilet paper, feminine products, laundry soap. I'm reaching out to members of our community who can help, individuals or groups who can find creative ways to support the food bank and the people it serves. For example, what if several of us came together to donate a steer, butchered and portioned according to the food bank needs? We must also move beyond the stigma attached to accessing community and social services. People turn to those services because they are in need. They deserve dignity, not judgment. We need to put an end to the derogatory comments directed at those who are already vulnerable. This is not about finger pointing or blame. This is a call to action, a call to those who can dig a little deeper and help brighten someone's day. Think of the last time you did something good for someone and how good it made you feel. Before I conclude, I want to share again my remarks from the Peace Pole installation. What struck me most that day was this: peace is not the anomaly, war is. My speech: when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. That's Jimi Hendrix. On behalf of council and the municipality of Tweed, I bring a heartfelt congratulations to you, Alan, and your band of peace enthusiasts on the installation of a peace pole in our community. Our peace pole is the second in Hastings County, with the first installed in Bancroft in 2024. I'm sure Chris Houston will touch upon their quest for peace later today. I can think of no better location for our peace pole than in our Memorial Park, alongside our cenotaph and our lone wolf, the Guardian. Amongst these beautiful banners commemorating those who gave up life and limb, and those who carried sorrow and grief and pain in their battle for liberty and peace. I quote General Douglas MacArthur, "The soldier, above all other people, prayers for peace. The soldier above all other people prays for peace, for he must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." Furthermore, this peace pole in our Memorial Park is also a testament to the rise of peacekeepers, a Canadian concept for which Foreign Minister V. Pearson would be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1957. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. That was Martin Luther King Jr., a hero who lost his life in the pursuit of equality and peace. Today, we live in a tumultuous world filled with cries for peace, cries for truth, justice, love, and freedom. Cries from Palestinians, Ukrainians, immigrants, refugees, the homeless, LGBTQ, and First Nations communities. Cries from Israel, Sudan, Congo, Myanmar, and now, who would ever have believed it, the United States. The United States, where truth, justice, love, and freedom are cast aside and are being replaced at an alarming rate with intimidation, bullying, false narratives, and authoritarianism. Today, more than ever, we need beacons of peace. We need symbols of peace. We need testaments to peace. We need reminders of peace, and our peace pole will forever remind us of that call for peace. But peace is not only about nations and conflicts abroad. We cannot lose sight of the importance of inner peace as we face many of life's challenges. Today, many struggle with mental health issues, and the search for peace of mind seems impossible. Faced with food insecurity, rising rents and taxes, potential employment threats, inflation and low incomes, wondering, where do I begin and how does it end? Therefore, it is incumbent that those who can help bring an inner peace to those who are suffering. Let our peace pole be a constant reminder to also help those in our community, across this province, across this great nation, and the world beyond. In closing, I leave you with the words of Confucius. There is righteousness in the heart, there will be beauty in the character. If there is beauty in the character, there will be harmony in the home. If there's harmony in the home, there will be order in the nations. And when there's order in the nations, there will be peace in the world. And reflecting back on our food bank, let this peace pole be a reminder that peace begins at home, in our kitchens, at our tables, and in the kindness we share with our neighbors. Peace be with you. Okay, now we have a notice of motion. The notice of motion is from Deputy Mayor Demarche, and he will be the mover. Could I get a seconder to get the motion on the table, which is the notice of motion by Deputy Mayor to repeal portable vendor policy? Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Fleeler. I'm going to turn it over to you, Deputy Mayor Demarche, if you would like to walk us through your reasoning on this. Thank you.
Okay, so, through the mayor, we've, a couple of years ago, we put in a portable vendors, bylaw, and the intent was to, maintain some, I guess, some kind of, focus on, portable food vendors that came within the municipality boundaries. I mean, there was one instance that came and kind of, caused a ruckus, but since then we've had none, but I've had several, groups and, like the Fair Board, the trails group that did the ride for the four-wheelers, Stoker Lake Lodge. All these groups are getting caught in this bylaw and are required to not only apply for a permit, but also pay a $30 fee. I don't think this was the intent of this bylaw when we passed it. And there is a subsequent bylaw that says a portable vendor can only be on commercially zoned lands or industrial zoned lands. So I think that while we did this in good faith, I think it's its wording and its application, and the wording therefore are being. Are impacting the groups that we don't want to impact, and that's our volunteers and service groups that are community that are providing. Different things to our municipality, there's just. Further groups could get encompassed in this, you know, if they're deemed a vendor under certain circumstances, and there's other events that we have that have vendors, so. I feel it's unfair and it's, and while we had good intentions, I feel it's encompassing people that was unattended, and since this bylaw was passed, I haven't seen any evidence that. It quite frankly is required, and if we have portable vendors, then they're gonna be. On commercially zoned land, that this is an allowable activity anyways and overlooked by the health department, and that we've had none of that since this bylaw was passed, so. I feel strongly that maybe that this time we repeal this, and maybe down the road, we can look at a more focused. Bylaw, if that's what we need, but this was pretty all encompassing, and to tweak it would be more work than starting new if we're gonna focus on that, but. At this time, I would like to. Not remove any hurdles, any other costs for our service groups and our volunteer groups.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Marsh. Also in that bylaw, there is references to like people who do quilting. Different arts and crafts and stuff, and it is a major inconvenience. So I understand where you're coming from. Now I see that the resolution, I'm just gonna read it here so everybody see what it is. Be resolved that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw, repeal bylaw number 2023-34 at a future council meeting. Do we also want them to bring forward to check the other bylaw to which Deputy Mayor DeVarsh is referring, just to see if there's anything we should be building in from that at this time as well. So
And I was gonna mention that, Mayor, too, that the subsequent bylaw, I think it's like, it's right behind it, I think it's 2023-35 or something. It's right behind it if you go search. That one could be maybe tweaked, like you're saying, and this one wouldn't be needed at all.
no, excuse me, I don't want to be doing arts and crafts and stuff like that. I don't think that's what it was intended for. So anyway, any comments or questions? Yes, Councilor Philip.
Your worship, I think when we brought this in, there was like, Deputy Mayor Marr said, there was an instance that we had to deal with. Would it be possible to put wording in that would prevent that kind of thing from happening again? And I agree 100% what you're pushing.
And through the mayor and council are clear, I think that's where, if we're going to tweak, we could tweak that other bylaw and repeal this one entirely.
So any other questions? We're good? Okay. Be it resolved that council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 2023-34 at a future council meeting and to revisit the previous bylaw to make sure that any accommodations are included. Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Worship,
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I noticed during your remarks that I was going through the motions and I missed the disclosure of pecuniary interest,
Oh, that's okay.
10.2.
So does Council Palmer Jr. need to sign anything or what?
Okay.
You'll get them on that. So you bring that back forward, okay?
Yes.
Okay, we have our first delegation, one that we always look forward to every year. Oh, Jim's the first delegation. Geez, sorry about that. No, we always look forward to Jim coming up here and talking about trunk or treat and the big things he's got planned. And so please come up and make sure your mic's on there, Jim. And
How would I do that?
share.
It's that time of year again. First, I have to thank council, 14 years, this will be 14 years. You've been behind me since day one in my family. And I can't adequately express my appreciation and thanks for all the help that you've given. The permission to use the municipal boat launch area has been critical in making it possible in 2024 for us to supply a spooky show, free hot dogs, free French fries, hot chocolate, to 958 guests, which roughly 600 were village and area kids. And I'm here to request your support for my 14th annual event. To repeat, I suppose, in the use of the boat launch area, its facilities, and the fire truck exhibit as we've had every year. And the kids love the lights, sirens, the sounds. They make it. I have to explain trunk or treat. I don't have to for most, but I like it on the record. Trunk or treat funding is totally by cash and in-kind donations from Tweed individuals, businesses and service groups. All the money collected goes toward event production costs, including promotions, equipment and goodies. Lots and lots of goodies. By way of explanation, imagine 600 kids, 2 or 3 pieces of candy and 25 trunkers. That's a lot of pieces of candy. So it's you help fund that. Per this council's previous requirements, we will ensure all vehicles and trunkers pre-registered to participate. And the restriction on homemade candy remains. We only accept pre-wrapped goodies. Surprise, surprise, our event will take place Halloween night, October 31st, which, hey, it's a Friday. That's kind of pretty cool. And beginning at 5:30. One of the most popular aspects, to repeat myself again, is the fire trucks and firefighters, and we're really hoping they can return again this year. And in addition to our trunkers, we have an OPP exhibit and the free food and treats, all provided through the generosity of Village of Tweed. I want to stress, this event is not open simply to people from Tweed. We accept anybody that wants to make the trip and enjoy the event here in Tweed on Halloween. It's all about the kids. I'd like to make special mention for the wonderful logistical support that I've had over the years, offered by Rochelle, Cindy, Trevor, and Ryan. And Alan too, but he's not here. Trunk or treat couldn't happen without their support, and I know that's over and above in a lot of cases what they're getting paid to do, and it is really appreciated. So my family and I look forward to providing a safe and family-friendly 2025 Halloween event. Thank you again for supporting it, and thanks to all for getting in the spirit of Halloween and helping make it a safe and fun night for the kids. That's it.
I think,
Okay.
That's good.
I think, I guess, do we want to support Jim on his trunk or treat this year?
I mean, what we talked about a little bit.
I don't know. Jim, most definitely, this council is behind you, as is the municipality. What you do is great for our community, it's great for our children. It provides a safe place to enjoy Halloween. The other nice thing is, some kids can't get around as easily. And so now you made it easy for them to come to one spot and be able to enjoy the festive atmosphere. So thank you so much.
The story is they come to the park first and have dinner. 3 hot dogs and fries, and then they hit the rest of the town.
Oh my
it's,
gosh.
It is a happening thing throughout the village, and that's our intent. And not to overstress it, but the relocation to that area of the park has improved and how to put this, reassured my family and I on the safety of the event. Too often we saw kids crossing the street from Circle K to get out of the old location in Memorial Park. And now we have a police at the entrance, EMS staff there, and lots of room and very little traffic. So it's ideal. It was terrible to see the trees come down, and it's wonderful to see the new trees planted. It's special spot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
good luck.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I need a mover and
For me.
a mover and a second
Okay,
for your
yes, then
resolution.
jump on back. Okay, I had a mover and a seconder. Oh, no, I didn't.
To don't.
Sorry. I have a mover and a seconder to Jim. I'm gonna read it. Jim Keniston, co-founder of the Tweed Trunk or Treat not-for-profit event. I gave a presentation of the past events in council, requesting council support for Halloween 2025 by giving permission to use Tweed Memorial Park and facilities. Okay, I will move in a second, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Marsh. Thank you, Councilor Palmetier. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, be it resolved that council support the 2025 trunk or treat event by giving permission for the use of Tweed Memorial Park and facilities, as well as a fire truck exhibit. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our second delegation. I welcome Ms. Jackie
Online, I was just trying to get her to,
Williamson, who is attending virtually. This is going to be an update on the development charges study that we currently have in progress.
there we go.
Okay. Hi, Jackie, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Great.
So I just introduced that you're going to be walking us, providing us with an update on our development charges study. So I'm going to turn that over to you and we'll all engage.
Excellent. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. It's a pleasure to be before you today. I'm just going to share my screen if I can. I do have a brief presentation for tonight. I have just sent a request if I could get sharing permissions. That would be excellent. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Sorry, bear with me for 1 second. Here we are. Okay, great. So my name is Jackie Hall. I'm an associate partner at Hempson Consulting. I have been working in the world of development charges for over a decade now. And it's a real pleasure to be before the municipality this evening and to be speaking to you about this process. What I want to do is talk about a few different things. One is a background to development charges, recognizing that this is the first time the municipality has undertaken this type of process. So I want to make sure that we provide that context and that knowledge transfer to everyone at the municipality in terms of what DCs are and what we expect them to do over the life of the bylaw. There has been a lot of talk about development charges across the province over the past, well, several years, and actually nationally as well. They've attracted quite a bit of attention. So I want to talk about the legislation, what we're seeing happen here in Ontario and across Canada, and also the requirements that we have to undertake in order to calculate development charges. Here in Ontario, we have one of the most prescriptive pieces of legislation in order to calculate these types of fees, really anywhere in North America. So we're a bit unique in that we're quite rigid in terms of what we can do. So I did just want to walk council through what key steps we have to do in order to meet those statutory requirements, and also what you can expect in terms of the information that will come through as part of this study. Another important component of this presentation is to just go over what is council's responsibility in this process. What are the key decision points that you will make as part of the approval of the bylaw and also working through the background study. I'm going to touch base a little bit in terms of the bylaw itself and what we'll be looking at in terms of its structure, the different types of policies that we might be applying. And then I'll conclude with an overview of the project timeline, and then of course, opportunity for questions and answers as well. So what are development charges? Many of you may already know that they are a fee that is intended to pay for growth-related capital costs. And what I mean by that is that it has to be related to servicing new development. Things such as asset management or operating costs or replacement of existing assets, one for one, that's looked at as being ineligible for DC funding. That has to come from other revenue sources such as property taxes. Development charges are really about trying to have growth pay for growth, in the sense that when we build new homes, when we build new businesses, there's increased pressure on the road network, water, wastewater services, libraries, fire, all of those great services that residents and employees of the municipality expect to see. The idea is that the development charges will maintain your existing levels of service. So we can't use DCs to create a higher level of service than what you have currently in the municipality. And I'll get into that in a couple of slides. There's also some jurisdictional elements to it as well. Counties, upper tier municipalities can levy development charges. Obviously, local municipalities can as well as boards of education. So there are a couple different layers to development charges in terms how they apply to individual developments. Development charges, though, are just one tool that municipalities can use to fund capital infrastructure. So we often talk about it as this growth-related funding tools. And that is related to expanding infrastructure, providing new infrastructure in order to meet the needs of future development. That includes development charges, DCs, community benefits charges. Unfortunately, the community benefits charges are really geared towards urban municipalities with lots of high density development. It only applies to buildings that have 5 or more stories and 10 or more residential units. So not really in play here in the municipality of Tweed, but certainly something that some of the more urban municipalities, the city of Ottawa, those folks have looked at and have implemented bylaws for. We also have parkland dedication and cash in lieu. That's also an important revenue tool to make sure that we continue to provide parks infrastructure to future residents of the town. There's also this notion of direct developer contributions. You might also hear them as local servicing requirements. Those are the funds, or those are the costs related to infrastructure typically internal to a subdivision agreement. So those local roads, sidewalks, street lights, intersections, sometimes there's some park elements in there too. Those types of assets developers pay for directly rather than have them funded through development charges. As well, through that process, what happens is the municipality will then assume those assets once they're constructed, and you'll be responsible for maintaining them. Of course, you don't have to use DCs or these other revenue tools I just talked about. You can use property taxes or utility rates if you want to fund growth-related infrastructure. The other important element for property taxes and utility rates is that if we have any sort of reduction to the calculated development charge rates, it could be statutorily required through the legislation, or it could be a discretionary or non-statutory exemption based on a decision of council as part of the approval of the bylaw. We have to fund those through other revenue sources, so property taxes or utility rates. That revenue source is also important for things like your long-term repair and replacement of municipal infrastructure, including your ongoing operating costs. This slide just provides a little bit more context to those 3 growth-related funding tools I mentioned quickly, and I'm going to go through this in the next slide, but really the key takeaway for this slide here is that we have these 3 different tools, but we cannot double count between them. So we can't ask someone to pay for the same piece of infrastructure through development charges as we would through community benefits charges or parkland acquisition. All of these are appealable to the Ontario Land Tribunal with certain conditions. So just something that we also have to follow in terms of the legislative requirements as we move through the process. The Development Charges Act is the document that guides how we calculate these charges. Development charges are imposed by a bylaw, which is ultimately what we will be doing through this process, is approving and adopting a bylaw to impose these charges. The maximum life is now 10 years. It used to be 5. So it's a good news story, especially for municipalities that don't want to undertake this process so regularly every 5 years, especially if a lot of things aren't necessarily changing. If there is rapid growth occurring, most places do end up undertaking a bylaw review with around that 5-year mark, maybe even a bit sooner. Certainly something that would be considered moving forward once the bylaw is in place. Prior to passing the bylaw, there's 2 critical things that need to happen. We have to complete a background study, which has all the technical information about how we calculate these charges, and we have to make it available to the public for review and comment. We then also have to have at least 1 statutory public meeting, once again, allowing the public to make representation in terms of the information that we're providing, both in the context of the rates we've calculated, but also the bylaw itself and the policies that are contained within it. As I mentioned, the legislation, so the Development Charges Act, you might hear me refer to it as the DCA, does require that municipalities provide certain exemptions for particular uses. You have no choice in these. They have to apply. So even if your bylaw, in the event you had a bylaw, it was silent on it, these would supersede what was in that bylaw policy. So there are exemptions for affordable housing units. This is directed by a bulletin that is posted by the province once a year. It's done on a municipal by municipal basis, and it sets thresholds for what is deemed to be affordable housing in terms of rental and ownership. There are also exemptions for nonprofit housing now. We cannot charge those. Long-term care, that's a relatively new exemption that just came into play this past summer. There is also a discount for rental housing. So if you have 4 or more rental housing units in a building, you receive a discount on the development charges based on the number of bedrooms you have. So the more bedrooms you have, the bigger the discount. So 3 bedrooms, 25. If you have a 1 bedroom or even a studio apartment, you're only going to get a 15% discount. There is also exemptions for additional residential units. You might hear the term ARUs. It's becoming more and more popular, especially to accommodate either family members within the same lot. They used to be called things like secondary suites, garden suites, in-law suites, all of those kind of good things. So they are exempt statutorily, whether you're doing a new construction and you're putting an in-law suite in your basement, or if it's an existing unit and you're adding units to it. There's certain rules around that, but by and large, most of those will receive an exemption. Industrial development as well, if an existing use is expanding, there is an exemption for that. And then municipal boards and boards of education. There are other administrative requirements under the Development Charges Act that municipalities have to adhere to. So development charges are frozen or determined at either site plan or zoning amendment, but they are not paid until building permit issuance. That allows a developer to have certainty in their pro forma about how much they are paying in the DCs before they actually go to pay them. And you do have the ability to charge interest on that as well, recognizing that those developments can take some time to proceed. There are deferral payments for rental housing and institutional development as well. That's done over 5-year installments. And now the province has introduced that we can actually amend bylaws without having to go through a formal public process if we want to do things like remove indexing or even reduce DC rates. So it's becoming much more flexible, especially if we implement development charge rates. If there is an adverse impact on housing construction, that's something that council can consider before the bylaw expires. You can also have those now non-statutory or discretionary exemptions. Very common ones include exemptions for agricultural uses, places of worship, hospitals. So really any of those are very common, what we see across here in Ontario. A municipality must also spend or allocate being the key word, 60% of the funds in your DC reserve for water, wastewater, and road services in a given year. So that would be dealt with through the budgeting process. It would be a treasurer's statement that would effectively show that commitment. To put a little bit of a warning sign up in the air, there was Bill 17, many of you are probably familiar with it, Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act. It was introduced in May, received royal assent in June, and there were a whole host of changes to a bunch of different acts, the Development Charges Act being one of them. Some of these took effect immediately and others did not. So we are expecting additional changes to the legislation this fall. Changes would include a deferral of the payment of residential DCs rather than it being at building permit to the occupancy of those units. That is a change that we're seeing across Ontario. Some municipalities are already doing this. So now it would be legislated. There would be a methodology about how to calculate what is DC eligible and ineligible. There would be some definition around those local direct developer contributions I mentioned earlier on in the presentation. There would be also this ability to create broader categories for DC credits. So if we ask developers to construct, or if the developer constructed infrastructure on behalf of the municipality of Tweed, they would receive a credit for that work, and they're looking into changing some rules around that. There's also the potential to have land removed as an eligible cost, which is quite tricky because as many of you are probably aware, the cost of land has been escalating quite dramatically in recent years. So if that gets removed as a DC eligible cost, the funding of land acquisition would have to fall on other revenue sources. There's also been some suggestions that there would be increased transparency and reporting on the DC reserves. So just a little bit more requirements in terms of what goes into those reports that you have to do on an annual basis. So as part of our work to date, we've been meeting with staff and having some really great discussions in terms of what services here in Tweed we feel would be eligible, or at least some that we should look at for the purposes of calculating DC rates. That would include services related to a highway, which is effectively your roads, infrastructure, public works, water and wastewater, parks and recreation, certainly, libraries, and then we have our protection services, so fire and police. Waste diversion is also eligible, but can be a little bit tricky because it's often dealt with under contracts, and then bylaw enforcement, but recognizing that, you know, some of these services are shared between other municipalities, it can be hard to tease out exactly what future capital costs would be associated with Tweed versus some of the other neighboring municipalities. So we're still working through this list right now, but we were having some really great discussions with staff at the municipality about how we should proceed. As I mentioned, the Development Charges Act is extremely prescriptive. This schematic kind of boils down a whole legislative document into a simplified schematic. There's other things that go into it, but basically what we have to do is look at the amount, type, and location of development in the municipality. We then have to identify your growth-related capital costs. We have to assign a dollar value to that. And then, as I mentioned, we also need to give consideration to service levels. So what has been provided in the municipality over the last 15 years, we cannot exceed that historic average level of service. So that way we're not asking future growth to pay for something at a higher standard than what existing residents have. We also have to make a whole bunch of other adjustments and reductions. So grants, if there's any other contributions from other municipalities, if you had a bylaw in place and you had reserves, we certainly would take that into account as well. And then after we make all those adjustments, we arrive at our cost that is eligible for recovery. And then we allocate that between our residential development and our non-residential development. Residential development charges are charged on a per unit basis. So a single detached versus an apartment versus a row, with single detached units paying more than an apartment. And the reason for that is that a single detached unit has, on average, a greater number of individuals living in it than an apartment. So therefore they pay less, an apartment would pay less because it puts less demand on municipal services than, say, a single detached home. And then on the non-residential sector, we typically would calculate that on a uniform basis for a municipality that is the size of Tweed. In other places, we might split that rate between, say, an industrial rate and a commercial rate, but most places a uniform charge works quite well. So these slides really just kind of get into a little bit more of that nitty-gritty that I just talked about. I'll just move through them quite swiftly, as I'd like to focus more on the policy and kind of council's role in the process. But essentially, we're working with staff right now to develop that the forecast of growth over a 10-year planning horizon for the municipality. We will be looking at population, the number of units, and then also the number of employees we would expect and the floor space or gross floor area associated with that. That historic service level cap that I talked about, really what we have to do is sit down with all the departments. We interview them, we understand what assets you have, we assign a replacement cost to that, and it all boils down effectively to $1 per person or $1 per person and employee. And then we multiply that by your future growth in order to say, okay, this is now the maximum amount of DCs we can ask growth to pay for in the future. So we're working through that process right now, and we'll be finalizing that in the coming weeks. As I mentioned, we also have to create this program of capital costs. And this is something that council has to express your intent to undertake the works. Now, this is a 10-year planning horizon. Things change every year with the budget. This does not mean that it's fixed in stone and that you have no other choice but to fund those projects at that cost. It is a process that would be effectively updated every year. The assumptions would be reflected through your budgeting process. So the DEC rates and the study itself remains fixed in time, but we do certainly recognize that as soon as the study's done, costs start changing, scope of work starts changing. Eligible costs that we can include are buildings and structures, furniture and equipment, vehicles, library materials, and also any sort of interest or financing costs as well. So we're certainly working through that right now in terms of what those capital programs will look like. What I thought would be helpful is to include an example of what the fire capital program might look like in the municipality. We've had some really great discussions with the fire chief. So certainly we've identified that there is a need for additional fire infrastructure in order to service future growth. That would include things like equipment, personal firefighter equipment, buildings, and vehicles in order to create additional servicing capacity for those future residents. The last step is to do that rate calculation where we allocate those costs between the residential and non-residential sectors. So in terms of what council's role is, there are several things that we're going to ask you to do through this process. The first is when we bring forward the bylaw and the background study, we will have council consider and approve the capital project list. As I mentioned, it's not fixed in stone per se, but we need council to be aware of the projects that go into the rate calculations in order to effectively approve the bylaw and the rates themselves. We also have to consider area rating. That is a term in the legislation that effectively means area-specific development charges. We do not have to implement area-specific rates, but it is something that we just have to consider. We are not expecting any sort of area-specific rates in the municipality right now. We're right now looking at a municipal-wide charge, which is very common in Ontario. We have to hold one public meeting, but council has the ability to consider whether or not we need to hold another one, especially if perhaps the public meeting was a bit contentious or there were some questions that are unanswered. There's also implementation options that you will certainly have the ability to comment on, whether or not we implement the full rates that we've calculated. So our role as the consultant is to say, this is the maximum rates you can collect as per the legislation. Your role is that you could say, well, you know, perhaps we want to look at only having a partial rate or maybe even phasing in what has been calculated. Now, recognizing that any sort of exemptions do have to be funded from other revenue sources. So if we're not funding them through development charges, they need to be funded through property taxes or utility rates. And then ultimately approving the 2026 bylaw. So through this process, what we'll be doing is making you aware of the proposed policies that we want to bring forward along with the rates and any sort of questions or comments we receive, whether it be formally or informally from either the development industry or the public prior to adopting the bylaw. The bylaw will include, just to give you a little bit of a lay of the land, definition of key terms. So it'll say, what is a single and semi-detached house? What is a non-residential development? What is a building? What is a structure? All those kind of good things to help your staff administer the bylaw. We can also include rules relating to timing and calculation of payment. We have to align with what the legislation requires, of course, but we can set some rules around that if we feel that that's appropriate. How the DC rates are applied in certain situations, and then rules around any sort of discretionary discounts or exemptions that council feels is appropriate. And then, of course, the areas to which the bylaw will apply. Will it be on a municipal-wide basis or area-specific? As I mentioned, we're certainly looking at more of a municipal-wide approach. So just before I wrap up the presentation, I'll just conclude with what the key steps are in passing the bylaw and our approximate targeted dates for when we're looking to do this. So we are looking to release the DC background study either towards the end of this year or early next year. We have to have the background study released a minimum of 60 days before the bylaw is passed. So that allows the public to review, provide comment. In that time, we're also going to release the draft bylaw if we don't do it at the same time as the background study. We have to advertise for the public meeting, give at least 20 days notice, and then we have to hold that public meeting. The bylaw would then be passed sometime likely in Q2 2026. And then any changes that need to be made to the background study based on that consultation period will be brought forward at that same time as part of the adoption of the bylaw. As I mentioned, there is the ability for the public or development industry to appeal the bylaw itself. So we will be issuing a formal notice of passage. So when the bylaw is passed and effectively what the bylaw said, and then there is a 40-day appeal period. So once that appeal period is done, no one else can appeal the bylaw to the Ontario Land Tribunal. But during that time, certainly an individual can do so. And with that, I appreciate that was a lot of information, but that concludes the formal presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I had a couple of questions. First of all, there will be a difference between urban versus rural simply because of the utilities involved and whatnot. Right? Okay. Now, one of the things that I was at a meeting last night and Mayor DeLine had indicated that the development charge is a set fixed rate, like if it was in urban or in rural, and it's not based on the size of the house, it's not based on the property itself. Is that the case, or is it a custom? Is it just a flat rate that everybody pays regardless of how much space they use?
That is an excellent question, Mr. Mayor. And just to clarify your first as well, certainly anyone who does not receive servicing, water, wastewater servicing would not be required to pay that charge. We typically don't necessarily call that a area specific rate, but you are absolutely correct. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. In terms of the structure of the rate, this is something we get asked a lot. I have a single detached home that is 1,500 square feet. My neighbor has a single detached home that is 3,000 square feet. Why are we paying the same rate? And the reason being is that over the long history of development charges in Ontario, which dates back to 1989, the calculation of the rates has evolved. And so what is the standard practice and what the Ontario Land Tribunal has effectively said needs to be used for the calculation is occupancy data that we get from Statistics Canada for those various unit types. So a single detached home, regardless of its size, interestingly enough, typically still have the same number of people living in it. So 3 people would live in that 1,500 square feet home, and 3 people often would live in that 3,000 square foot home. Certainly, we're seeing some differences come up in some municipalities where we see multi-generational housing. But in those instances, they're often not treated as single detached anymore. They almost become those duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, because they're kind of separated apartments within homes. So there was a municipality in Ontario, the town of Blue Mountains, did have rates that were structured around gross floor area. And unfortunately, it was appealed by the development industry and overturned at the Ontario Land Tribunal. So the gold standard across the province is to charge it on a unit basis, irrespective of the size.
Well, it's interesting because when you think of your semi-detached and you think of a 3,000 square foot that could be on a much larger lot, a significantly larger lot, taking up more road space, more sidewalk, more piping to get into their place, that they would pay the same amount. But I understand what you're saying. It's not up for debate. It's just that just trying to rationalize the process for myself. The other thing is we talk about Q2, and when we talk about Q2, 20 days, 40 days, 60 days, are they all happening concurrently, or are they all back? One happens first, and then the next one happens, and then the next one happens?
Certain things can happen concurrently. So your appeal period and your notice requirements, all of that happens concurrently. The ones that do not is that we have to release the background study 60 days before the bylaw passage. That is really the key one that we have to hit. And we also have to do a formal notice of the public meeting that's 20 days before. So yes, most of them do run concurrently. So we're not running into this everlasting process. Yes,
Because we have like next year's an election year, so we gotta make sure.
correct,
Done, well into August at the latest, because then we become a lame duck council.
correct.
Some people might already think we are, but anyway, that's a story for another day. Anybody on council have any questions that they would like to raise? Yes, Councilor Flitter.
Well, I am a lame duck.
We know we probably.
Anyway, I apologize if I missed it, but so these charges would apply to rural. The rural community as well as the village proper and the hamlets and all this kind of thing.
Yes, that is a great question.
Mhm.
So the idea being is that certain services would apply to the rural area. So rural residents use things like the roads, libraries, parks and recreation. Everyone has equal access to those types of infrastructure. So that would be part of what we would calculate to say that, development that's happening in the rural area should contribute to that infrastructure. Now, as the mayor mentioned, for things such as water and wastewater, given that there is no water and wastewater services in those areas, those charges would not apply. Historically, water, wastewater rates do tend to be some of the larger components of the charge. So I would expect that the rural rate we calculate would be far less than what we would expect someone on servicing in the more urban area to pay.
Okay, thank you. And this bylaw now is 10 years long. So at the end of 10 years, do we have to do another study or just? We do? Okay.
Yes, excellent question. And through you, Mr. Mayor, so certainly the way that it works under the legislation is that at the end of the 10-year, your bylaw effectively expires and it is no longer in play if you hit that expiry date. So you do have to complete a study. You'd probably likely start that in either year 8 or year 9, just to make sure that you don't run up totally to that expiry date there. And what we often see with our clients is if you get a new master plan, or if you have a piece of infrastructure that's quite expensive, let's say a water wastewater upgrade needs to happen, and we know about that in year 4 or year 5, you might want to consider looking at your bylaw then, because we need to ensure that there's appropriate funds to pay for that infrastructure.
As you mentioned, Jackie, some people are amending and reviewing their bylaws more frequently based on the amount of housing that they actually have going on within their communities. So, anything else from anybody? Okay, thank you very much. I guess we leave it to you and you will be coming back to us. And thank you very much for the presentation. Oh, one other thing. When you're doing your little analysis with us, are you going to be showing us what our neighbors are doing, like in Sterling and Center Hastings? You are, okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is an excellent question, and we certainly will be doing that. So we'll do our best to have an apples to apples comparison, and we'll work with staff to say, who do we need to look at in order to give you that context.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Could I have I guess I'll move in a second. When we go back. You don't need one for this one. Okay. Okay, you're free to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And you're free to go too, Jim, if you want. Unless you got something more exciting to do. Okay, moving on. Could I have a mover and a seconder to table the CIO update of September 23rd, 2025, please? Thank you, Councilor Valiquette. Thank you, Councilor Fleeler. Any questions on that update? I see CIO Diskey would like to say something. No, okay, no. Any questions on that? If there are no questions, be it resolved that council will see the CA report for information. All in favor? Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder to table the 2026 budget schedule, please? A mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councilor Valiquette. Thank you, Councilor Palmetier. Over to you, CAO Diskey.
Through the chair, thank you. Just going back to the first one, I just wanted to say it for the record, but I just wanted to really recognize our staff for performing other duties during a time of staff turnover and absenteeism. So a huge thank you to Kate Lassard, Julianne Chambers, Cindy Chow Kavanaugh, and Jay Baptiste. Thank you. Okay, going on to the budget schedule. So it's that time of year. So this budget schedule is looking to start the budget process November 21st, December 4th, December 17th, January 22nd. This models the schedule from last year, just, you know, massaging some of the dates and moving them around. So this is something for you to approve. And hopefully we'll have the budget done early in the new year, January 22nd. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Whitmer.
Mayor, in previous years, we've had stuff pop up in, January and February that we had to go back and revise our budget. I'm wondering if a little later start on this, so that we don't have to keep backtracking would be in order. I just found it really repetitive when things roll into us in January, February, and then we gotta go back and adjust this and adjust that. So I just kind of feel it's a bit, a bit on the early schedule, so that's just me.
My understanding is that CAO Diskey is working with the team. And how we always like to have a tendency to put stuff in the budget that's based on funding. And then we're always constantly revising the budget because we don't get the funding. That's not going to be the case this time. What we're putting in is what we're going to be able to go forward. I have no problem sticking with this one. Maybe we might want to move the final approval till a little later. Which was that. But I see the reason why we typically do it in advance, so that if we're going out for contract, you often get the better quotes if you're out there early as opposed to going later. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not sure. Ron, Ryan, thoughts, council, Jim, Councilor Freeland.
Your worship, if we're unable to get funding, we're gonna have to be really careful. Like, we can't. I would ask staff to reduce their budget by 10, 15% if they can. I know that's huge numbers, but we can't continue operating at increased costs with no help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are we okay?
Mayor, just building on what you had said, would it be more sufficient to only have the December 4th meeting and then January 22nd meeting, bump it up a month, so your budget final approval will be in February. So you're 1-1-1-1.
Okay, I have no problem with that. We're always, we can't implement our tax increases or whatever because we're always beholden to the county, who's always later, much later. Now, I think they're moving it up this year by a month because people have been complaining because it holds up tax bills and whatnot. So I have no problem doing that if you wanted to, let's pick it, how's everybody else on that?
Your worship, I'm just questionable on the 21st of November.
Mhm.
The rest should be fine. It's just, I'm going away and I get home the night before, so that's hoping that the boss can keep everything in line back in the farm.
So actually, you're thinking of moving them, and November 21st won't even be in that schedule. Is that what you're saying, Marsh? If you're saying moving them all up a bit?
Oh, no, I was saying that, leave that one. I mean, but if it doesn't work for Councilor Volunteer, I'm open, but I was saying have one in November, one in December, one in January, one in February.
Okay.
And if the county doesn't have theirs, they're probably gonna have a whatever budget. Can we not implement last year's budget as an earmark, so we're not adjusting that much? Is that how?
We can, we always hold, that's why we always hold off with our huge tax, it looks like a huge tax increase in the latter bill. Because we can't do anything, I already talked to Cindy about it, and we can't even implement ours. Now knowing what it is, we have to wait till the county comes in. Okay, so going back to the 21st, what about the 24th? How's that for everybody, if we've got calendars there?
Before November?
Yeah, for the first meeting, if that's okay. Is that okay, Jim?
9?
Yeah, I think it's 9, I think these all start at 9. That'd be November. Okay,
That'd be better for myself.
okay. And then the next one, in December, that one was okay for everyone, or me?
Yeah, I was fine with the rest of
Okay,
it.
December 4th. There. Okay, we're gonna, okay, so then we'll have January 22nd. Want to move it earlier in January? say January 15th or something like that. And then beginning of February. We could say, we have a council meeting on the 13th. Would you like to do it following the council meeting? No. Okay, so we could do it, we could do it on the 15th, January 15th.
January?
What is that, a Tuesday?
That's a Thursday.
Thursday?
So Jan 15th, okay, and you will send out this updated schedule, right? So you'll just be thinking,
That,
no, not good for you,
well, is that a morning meeting?
morning.
Okay, yeah, I got one in the afternoon, probably.
What dates do we have?
What dates do we have so far? We have November 24th, December
Fourth.
4th, January 15th, and then we're gonna pick in February. We could do February 12th. Does that work? Okay, February 12th is
So the date of that January meeting is what?
the 15th,
The 15th?
Yeah.
Okay.
and these will all start at 9.
And the February one is what?
The 12th. The 12th,
So what day is that?
that's again a Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday. I got last year's calendar, I haven't got a calendar. Are we gonna make a calendar for the boys this year?
I guess.
Or do I have to do my own again? I can do it.
So are you guys okay with those dates? Just, you okay? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Go back to the, be it resolved that council, received the 2026 budget schedule report as presented, and further that council set the 2026 budget schedule as follows. November 24th, December 4th, January 15th, and February 12th, with a start time of 9 AM. All in favor? Thank you. Could I have a move seconder to table the tax payment due date? Please, I move this. Thank you, Francis Wheeler. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Marsh. Are there any questions on the change? Yes, Mr. Palmer was here.
Your worship, I'm fine with the change. The only question I have is, this brings up another piece on us maybe falling behind late in the year and stuff. And since I've been here, we've never reviewed our operating. Like our operating line and what the municipality has, and I don't know if we need that or so we don't have shortfalls.
We do, we have huge shortfalls.
Because a big part of running any business is those relationships.
Yes.
And keeping those relationships good, in times where we're falling behind, we pull those people with us. And sometimes those people don't want to, we can, so, and as we head into more taxes and maybe increases, maybe, as we, in next year, there might be more people that are delayed or have to do payments. So just something to maybe bring up, the future councils.
Yeah, we basically in meeting with Cindy on this is that, we are in a situation, first of all, we're one of the latest, we have October, November for our payments coming in. I'm just driving through, Murdoch Township, and they reminded everybody their last payment due on September 12th. At the end of the month, sorry, not September 12th, but at the end of September. And that's simply because, like you're saying, to address the shortfall that we have in holding off people. Because our tax increase doesn't come in until that last bill's up. And so we're trying to change that. The other thing is that we're really promoting is people to go to equal billing. So it's like a monthly bill that they're getting, or quarterly, or trimester if they want. Trying to ensure that we make it as flexible as we possibly can for people to accommodate paying their taxes. Any other questions on that? Yes, Deputy Mayor Marsh.
So we keep hearing about how those last bills are the highest, and that's the shock factor when we do a tax increase. Is there any way to front load that a little more? Or, is there any-
Yes,
no.
we are not allowed to. I've already asked, unfortunately, we can't. I would like to see us do that and then just catch up with county on the last bill. No, we can't. Any other questions, comments? Good, thank you. Be it resolved that council approve the tax payment due dates report as presented, and further that property tax collection dates be revised with taxes to be collected at the end of March, June, and September annually. All in favor? Thank you. Compensation, could I have a mover to table, a mover and a seconder to table the compensation review revised that we approved last meeting? Mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Palmetier. Thank you, Councillor Valley-Cat. Over to you. Any questions? Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Flater.
Your worship, I asked that we review this before we adopt it. I don't know.
I thought you.
I didn't get a chance to talk to our CAO, but
Did he approach you?
he did offer to talk to me, yes, he did, and I just haven't, because of all the appointments I've had in the last couple of weeks, I get so far behind, I don't know everything, so.
Just to let you know that this has been approved. Okay, so if you, I would recommend that you do reach out to the CAO, just so you can become comfortable. I
Okay,
know you were taken aback with all of the ancillary information that was thrown in there.
okay,
Okay, right now, this is a pay, trying to make it easier for issuing the pay receipts, what we're seeing right now. Any other questions on that? Okay, be it resolved that council approve the compensation review report, a revised report as presented, and further that retroactive pay date, related to market value assessment be revised to June 21st, 2025. All in favor? Okay, I have a mover and a seconder to table the Public Works request to hire 2 winter seasonal staff. A mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councilor Valley-Cat. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Palmetier. Any questions on said request? Seeing none.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please go ahead, Councilor Palmetier.
So my question is just related to the previous council meeting, your worship. We hired a full-time person, and now we have 2 seasonal members. Just as I've had a few people speak to me about winter maintenance, after hearing that we were down our contractor. Just so that we have a better idea of what these people will be doing and what like personally, the hard part I have is seeing the equipment we'll be using for the individuals that we're hiring. So it's all right, your worship,
Please do.
the public work director.
Through the chair, we're gonna try and utilize these 2 staff on off hours when our guys are off. So say in a winter storm, we're gonna be having them come in at 4 in the morning, hopefully get them out before 4 in the afternoon. We have our nighttime guy that comes in on that shift afterwards. He's working alone, trying to clear all the hard tops by himself. So these 2 staff we can pick up and throw in these trucks on night shifts to get us caught up. Without the use of Palmetiers this year, we're not going to be able to keep up and get the roads cleared as quick as we used to. But if we get these 2 extra staff in here, we won't have an issue with meeting MMS. So this is basically gonna save us a bunch of liability issues and keep us compliant with MMS. So
Just your worship, with this and with everything we're dealing with, I'm assuming we'll be looking at how to go back to close to our existing ways and budget.
to the chair and budget, sorry.
Like, will we be looking in budget to try to fix the issue of not having the contractors and getting closer to what we used to have?
Yeah, through the chair, that's what we'll try and do at budget time. We're gonna try and get back to that service level. So maybe we don't have to have seasonals down the road or be running all of our other equipment down the road too. We'll be having the proper snow plow equipment to do this and the right staff to do this.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, Councilor.
thank you, your worship. I did talk to CAO Wadisky and the roads manager before the meeting, and I'm still a little bit, I'm thinking like, a lot like Councilor Palmetier. I just don't know. And clearly the direction is that we're trying to save money get the job done, like the loss of this contractor is huge. Everybody knows that, even the ratepayers in the municipality realize this as well. I'm just a little iffy on it just yet, but I appreciate the comments from CAO Diskey and the roads manager before the meeting, so but I'm still a little foggy on the whole thing.
I think one of the things that we're hopefully aiming to do is get everything in place. Here we are, the middle of September, well, almost the end of September. My gosh, and we want to get things moving so that you're ready for, I don't even know what kind of winter they're forecasting this year, but.
We're gonna get a doozy.
Yes, I did very much. Thank you very much, Councilor Fitter.
Mayor, I can't remember, but we had, is in our 2025 budget. It was usually a significant amount of money for that contracting of that snow removal. Is the intent to use some of that money to pay these two part-timers and to purchase maybe those snow plows and stuff that you're requiring? I mean, I think it was quite a chunk we put away every year for subcontracting for that.
Through the chair, the total ticket on that contracted services was about 160,000 a year is what we paid for a contractor to come in. We're expecting, if we do get the approvals and everything with the staff, we should be saving just over 100,000 a year. We don't have any extra equipment we're planning on getting. We have ordered that one tandem truck. The dealers said that it's going to be in by the end of October. I'm guessing it's going to be in spring, so we're still going to be without that. But as far as equipment, that's the only one we have coming this year, and that's the money we'll be saving.
Just to follow up, you had asked for the last meeting, a couple of plows for half ton or tons. And the other thing too is we've got that big truck coming. If the anticipation is gonna be a saving of $100,000 a year, can we transfer that $100,000 to the reserve to pay for that truck coming in?
Through the chair, I'd love to give you that answer. I'd have to talk to our treasurer about that, see what her thoughts are.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Good discussion, thank you. Be it resolved that council will accept the request to hire two winter seasonal staff. Report is presented and for the council direct staff to hire. Okay, two seasonal winter staff. All in favor? Thank you. We have a move in a second to table the building inspection service for BISB permits report statement of revenues and expenditures as of August 31st, 2025. Please move in a second. Thank you, Councillor Felina. Thank you, Councillor Valley-Cat. Any questions on that report? I still see that our building permits are higher and whatnot, so that's good for the sale community. Okay, can I have a move? So all in favor? Or did you move in second? Sorry, okay. Be it resolved that council received the August 2025 BISB report is presented. All in favor? Can I have a move in a second to table bylaw number 2025-80? A bylaw to authorize long-term borrowing pursuant to the issue of debentures to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, in the principal amount of $3,779,250,000 towards the cost of capital works. Can I have a move in a second, please? Thank you, Council Palmetier. Thank you, Council Valley-Cat. Any questions on that particular authorization? Yes, Council Philip.
Your worship, how urgent is it that we arrange for this financing here?
Oh, if I may, this should have been done months ago. In fact, we were turned down when we went back because we hadn't followed through within the deadline. And so we're very lucky that our CAO was able to work her magic and bring them on board. We're very lucky.
Unreal.
And this is work that was done in our first year.
Yeah.
You know,
So. Anyway, that's fine.
okay, so any further questions on that? This document is, it has to be all these certain times for signing and everything. It's crazy. Be resolved that bylaw number 2025-80 to authorize long-term borrowing be read a first, second, third, and final time passed, signed, and sealed and open council this 33rd day of September 2025. All in favor? Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder to table bylaw number 2025-81. A bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2012-30 as amended 17 Countryman Road. A mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Marsh. Thank you, Councilor Colin. Oh, this is the one that Councilor Volunteer declared a conflict on. So he has left the room. Any questions? Seeing none. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-81 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2012-30 as amended for 17 Countryman Road be read a first, second, and third and final time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of September 2025. All in favor? Thank you. You can come back in, Jacob. Could I have a mover and a seconder to table the request we support for NDEP phase 3 and local development targets natural gas expansion in Ontario? Mover and a seconder to get that on the table. Thank you, Councilor Valiquette. Thank you, Councilor Fleo. Any questions on that? Okay, I've asked Lori if she would read this for us. It's quite long and my voice is impaired.
Whereas the province has posted ERO 0250923, consultation on the future of community natural gas expansion, seeking feedback from municipalities, Indigenous communities, and other stakeholders on how phase 3 could best support access to natural gas for community development. And whereas expanding access to natural gas is identified as a tool to support affordability and economic growth in Ontario communities, with phases 1 and 2 estimated to enable connections for approximately 17,000 buildings across 59 communities and 16 projects completed to date. And whereas the municipality is working towards its housing and employment land goals and that contribute to Ontario's broader objective to build at least 1.5 million homes by 2031, and recognizes that timely servicing solutions, including natural gas where appropriate, can help enable these targets. And whereas Ontario's energy future relies on a balance of affordability, reliability, and sustainability by leveraging a mix of energy solutions, including natural gas, electricity, and emerging energy technologies to meet growing community needs. And whereas natural gas continues to play a critical role in supporting energy affordability, economic competitiveness, and enabling housing and employment growth across the province. Therefore, be it resolved that Council 1 supports the ministry's consultation on the future of community natural gas expansion, NGEP phase 3, and endorses access to natural gas as an option to other energy solutions to advance municipality of Tweed's housing, employment lands, and economic development objectives. Number 2, direct staff to submit comments to ERO 0250923, reflecting the municipality of Tweed's priorities, including priority application types, alignment with official plans, secondary plans, sites and corridors where gas access would enable development, housing and employment lands, and phase 1 and 2 learnings, if applicable, and practical barriers, example, timing, permitting, cost, land access. Number 3, for this resolution to MPP Rick Bracy, the Minister of Energy and Mines, the Ontario Energy Board, AMO, and neighboring municipalities.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lori. Are there any questions on said resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. They have a mover and a seconder to table correspondence. Thank you, Council Palmer. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Demarche. I see you've gotten some uptake on your incinerator, Councilor Fleeler.
Yes, it had gone out before.
I agree to realize.
Lucas is a very efficient young man.
And that's good. I've been hearing more people talking about it, so that's good for you. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I hope.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, there's a number of items within there. There's a number of supports.
The OBE as well. What was that? No, maybe that's.
No, that was,
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. That was one for you. Is there anything anybody wants to bring up then? Okay, seeing none. Back up here. Be it resolved that correspondence information be received and filed. All in favor? Thank you. And could I have a mover and a seconder for the conformatory bylaw, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Palmetier, and thank you, Councillor Valiquette. Any questions on adjourning this meeting? Oh, I knew it.
I just wanna, if I might have permission, I've been working in between my appointments, trying to get some information. And I have some, so I would like to work with Lucas, maybe Lori, and,
Information on what?
a plan to try to receive funding
For,
for everything.
oh, okay, work with the CAO, okay?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, work with the CAO.
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be it resolved that conformatory bylaw, be it resolved that conformatory bylaw number 2025-82 be ready first, second, third, and final time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of September 2025. All in favor? Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn to the meeting? Thank you, Councillor Palmetier. Thank you, Councillor Fleeter. Be it resolved that council adjourn as Lori.
7:26.
Thank you.